Hi everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be building a under-table router dust box. You may have seen a few brands have these type of products. I think the Incra Clean Sweep is a very popular option. Essentially it encapsulates the router underneath your table in a box, and it allows you to hook up some suction to it, which will create a downdraft suction when you are doing various different routing operations. This can be super beneficial when you're doing things like dados and rabbits, and your router fence dust extraction can't actually reach the bit to extract the dust. These are really simple to make. Here you can see I'm just making a plywood box, just using some pocket screws. Next, I'm just cutting out the hole for the dust port at the bottom of the box, so the dust will obviously fall down to the bottom, and I've just got a 100mm hose for that. I'm just giving it a quick sand, and now I'm going to cut the access panel into the router box. So with the Triton router, you do need to turn it on and off on the actual machine itself. You can't hook it up to a NVR switch or anything like that. So I'm putting in a big door here because I'm going to have to keep on opening and closing this door to turn it on and off, which is a little bit annoying, but I think it's an okay compromise to make, considering, as I said before, that this is a really good entry-level router, especially considering that you get the lift mechanism in it, so you don't actually need to buy a router lift. I'm just 3D printing a latch here to keep the door closed. And I've got a lot of rubber left over from my shed build for my roof, so I'm going to be using quite a lot of that in this build. This is just a rubber gasket around the door, just to kind of seal the air as much as possible. Now for the inside of the box, I did see from people building this that there is a tendency for dust to collect in the corners of the box. I've just 3D printed a curved shape here, which will funnel the dust from the corners into the center of the box, which is where the hose outlet is. I'm infilling it here with some expanding foam just to give it a little bit more rigidity, and then I'm just sealing it in the box with just some caulk. Next, it's time to cut out the grommet, which will allow the plug from the router to come out of the box. I'm making the grommet an airtight one, and I got inspiration from a design on Printables, which is a really nice idea of kind of splitting the grommet in half and then adding a flexible filament around the actual cable to create an airtight seal, which is pretty cool. The top of the box, again, I've just got a rubber gasket on it. This will just fit directly into my table. I've made it big enough just so it fits in between the stretchers of the table. And then I'm just using some screws at an angle so it will pull the box down into the underside of the table, creating a nice seal. And here's how the grommet works. You've got the TPU flanges here, which will go around the cable, and that is what will create a relatively airtight seal. And you can see that obviously I can now just screw this into the base of the grommet, which is attached to the box. So I've got the dust box installed. I've been using it for like the last week and I'm very happy with it. I've come across a few issues that I'm going to fix now. So because my insert plate is just made from 18mm plywood, it does mean that you do lose some of the depth that you get with the plunge router. So it does mean that you need to use longer router bits in order to complete some jobs. Like for instance, to do a trim on like 36mm bit of wood, it's very difficult to get the reach when you've got it in insert plate. So it does mean you need to use longer router bits, and like something like this, which has got, I think it's got a cutting length, the blade is like 63mm. Once you step up to like these size router bits, you need a 1/2 inch collet. So all of the bigger bits, they enable you to take bigger cuts basically, so you do need a larger collet. I went ahead and bought the 1/2 inch collet for the Triton router. It doesn't actually come with the router when you buy it. You only get the, I believe it's the 1/4 inch collet, and you also get the 8mm collet. Obviously the 1/2 inch is going to be the biggest one out of all of them. Now also with a 1/2 inch collet, it means that you can get much larger bits. Like this for instance is a 1/2 inch corner radius round over bit. The hole that I've got here, this will not even go through it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to open up the hole here. I'm going to 3D print some insert plates for this so I can use different size bits. But I also think that opening this up is going to increase the airflow that I'm going to get through the dust filter box. Because at the moment, especially when I have like a chamfer bit and it takes up pretty much most of the diameter of this hole at the moment, the suction isn't that good, especially when it's kind of like in the middle of the plywood. If it's kind of well out, then it can kind of get underneath. If it's inside, it's got enough space to suck in the dust. But when it's kind of occupying and filling up the actual the recess here, the airflow isn't that good. We'll open it up and then we'll create some insert plates for this. That was definitely not the best way to do that. I overshot it, you can see here. I did 3D print this. This was kind of the idea that I'll just use a bushing to follow it around. But when you're pushing against it, you get a nice bit of resistance. But then when you come out, you got to keep on the pressure like all around it as you are moving it around. I find that the bushings work okay when you've got like a nice large piece that you can push against, but something like this, which is such a kind of a small radius, yeah, it's quite difficult to follow that around accurately. But I've got the recess, so this is going to be the outer diameter of the insert plate, and now I'm just going to cut out this inner hole. So this would be the clearance that I have, which should be more than big enough for, you know, some of these big 1/2 inch bits that I've got. So I'll 3D print another little jig that will slot in here, and this will cut the inside diameter for this hole. So we've got the hole cut out, and what I'm going to do next is I'm just going to drill 3 holes for some magnets, and then I will go ahead and just make some 3D printed insert plates that also have magnets in it. So then they can just drop in, and I'll have various different sizes for different size bits. Before I do that, I just want to take a quick pause and thank the sponsor of today's video, PCBWay. They offer a huge range of services for makers and DIYers. They have a huge range of PCB services ranging from etching all the way up to full turnkey OEM. And they also offer a huge range of services such as 3D printing, CNC machining, injection molding, sheet metal bending, and many, many more. What's good is they offer low volume quantity orders, which is great for those one-off prototypes, so you don't need to order 100 of the same part. They offer very fast shipping to most countries as well, so be sure to check out PCBWay.com today. Okay, there we go. So that works really nicely. These just lock in place. So all I've got to do now is just print a few more of these of various different inner diameters, and I need some more super glue to put in these magnets. That seems to work nicely. So you can see the difference that this dust box makes when you're doing things like this, you know, cutting a dado in a bit of wood. You can see that with the suction turned off, you can see the amount of dust that is created and spewed out onto the table here. Here is the same cut, same depth of cut, and this is with the dust box turned on. You can see there's a little bit of dust at the start, just as when it kicks in, but once you're into the actual cut, there is literally zero dust created. It is all sucked down into the router box. So this works amazingly well, a very, very cheap upgrade to any router box. So hopefully you found that useful. If you've got any questions on this build, feel free to ask in the comments below. But that is it for today. I'll catch you all later.